fairly with a decent volume. It's going to allow you to turn the overall volume of the microphone down, thereby letting you cut out the background noise.
All right. Hey there. Happy Thursday. Actually watching a video to understand how best to use this mic. So hopefully.
Omnidirectional and bidirectional. Wow. These modes are made to help you get the right sound in any situation.
Okay, so the right sound in any situation. So I'm hoping at this point the sound is okay. So if you're one of 8 people watching out there, give me a thumbs up and let me know how the sound is. So I haven't changed anything since last time. So I'm hoping the sound, but it's doing pretty well. So again, man, happy Thursday. Hope everybody's having a good day. I said last time we did this that I'm going to hold myself to doing one a week. So I'm back. I gave, I think, 7 minutes notice, and it looks like the sound is good. Yes. So I had 7 minutes notice that I could give to squeeze this one in, and I knew we wouldn't be able to do it tomorrow. So my hope moving forward is that we can get these set up a little bit earlier. So at least give a few hours to maybe even a day, so people can be prepared that we're going to do this and probably be a little bit more on topic as well. So I'm down for these open Q&As. I think they're cool. I like them, but I think what will probably start happening is I'll come up with a topic that we'll spend probably the first half talking about. Then we'll roll into some Q&A. And I think as it goes down the road, we're going to try to get more questions, I think, in advance and really dig deep into those questions to give some more thorough answers, because I think that's going to help people across the board. A lot of these questions that are asked are questions that most people are asking. So it'll be good, I think, to get some answers and get some feedback from other people. So of course I'll ask my brother, I'll ask a few other people. So we'll get those. So exciting news today. We got back out and we shot another ride series how-to, and this one, so riding berms has been a very hot topic here in Northwest Arkansas, but I think pretty much anywhere that people ride bikes. It's one that I've been waiting for a while for a couple of reasons. I had to work through a few things in my mind in regards to how I ride berms and how a lot of people talk about riding berms. And I went into it this morning really trying to strike a fine balance and at the same time let it be very real. So I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I don't script the videos. What I do is I write an outline for the videos, and I write an outline because I want to try to cover certain points. And I try to embed that outline in my head and get those points in a way that makes sense. Now, I don't always get those points. Like there was 2 that I had written down for this one that I didn't get in. One of them was put your dropper down. So hopefully everybody's going to remember to put their dropper down when they're hitting turns. But I think it worked out really well. Had a local rider named Brittany help me out with this one, and she is super cool. She's a good rider. She was actually a little too good at the beginning. Her first runs through were, her hip positioning was really good. So what I was trying to do was highlight hips being back, because that's a big problem people have. So I talked about it a lot, and I think we got it through. But my hope is that once this one is edited, it will resonate with a lot of people, because something just organically happened within that video that made me very excited. So this is going to be one of the realest that we've ever done. I get fired up in this one and I can't hide it. So that component of it is going to be really cool. It's going to be another long one, but I really think that it is going to be a good one, because I think it's going to highlight a few different things, and I think it might make people look at one element in particular a little bit differently. You may not adopt it, but I think you'll look at it and it might, I don't know, it might change the way people ride some berms, not all of them. But either way, I'm excited. Hopefully that can be edited here in the next few days. I'll have to see what my man Brock has going on. In addition to that, the Ride Series MTB Skills Clinic schedule is ramping up. We got a couple events coming up this weekend here in Bentonville. Then next weekend we're rolling to Dallas. And then I'm really excited about this one. We're coming to Denver. So Denver, are you ready? You better be ready. We're going to go hit Denver. We're going to do a little riding. We're going to go film a little bit at a bike en route that we're going to be dropping the hammer on at Trestle. So I'm fired up. This is a bike that I've wanted to ride for a long time. So it should be here in a couple days, and I'll break it in a little bit, and then I'll get some time on the Trestle on the mountain. Hey, DW with the $5 super chat. I totally forget that this thing is on there. So that's super cool, man. Good seeing you on here. And he said he had a blast at the 201. Heck yeah, dude, that was a fun one. So yeah, shoot me a message when you're up here in a week. Hopefully we can get a ride in. It's so cool to see all these people coming here, and I'm just trying to make some time where I can go ride with everybody. So yeah, Dallas and Denver, like I said, we'll get out to Trestle, and then we're going to have the events at Ruby Hill Bike Park. Really excited about that because it's a cool place, and the city of Denver has been awesome to work with. So after that, we're working on an event up in the Kansas City area. So I think we have that one close. And then we're going to come to Phoenix for a few, and we're shooting to do a Southern California, either more like an LA area or down in San Diego. So working the San Diego front right now, there's a lot of people that are really into it because, well, I mean, a lot of reasons, but they're really into it down there in San Diego. So we're trying to make a push for that one. So yeah, a lot of good things. We're trying to get the content up to another level. We got a lot of things in the works right now. So yeah, it's just craziness. But I told myself I would do this every week, and I am going to stick to doing it every week. So start dropping some questions. We got 39 people out there. Drop some things in. Here's one. You a silent hub guy or the swarm of bees type? I am an I9 guy. So when I first started racing mountain bikes, I was riding with a group of people, and I heard this dude, and I heard this sound, and I thought, what is that sound? And he explained it to me. It was his Industry 9 hubs. And I didn't really know much about hubs then. But what I quickly realized was, wait a minute, that sound is menacing, and I could use that sound to my advantage. So what I did was I got some Industry 9 hubs because my thought was, if I could come ripping through some turns, not pedaling in a cross-country race, and people would hear me coming up on them and they would hear that sound, it would spook them a little bit. So that's, yeah, I'm definitely in for the loud stuff. So this is a good one right here, John. Stem bar height and its effect on jumping, bunny hops, and other skills. So what's great is I actually talk about stem and bar height. I talked about stem and bar height today in this video. Now I can only address it a little bit, and we actually talk a lot about that when we start ride series events. So we will think about a stem and spacers under a stem or on top of a stem. Now look at most of my bikes. It's at the most 50-50. Usually the majority of spacers are on the top of the stem for me. And part of the reason is, if you think about it from the side, if you drop the stem down and drop the bars down, you're going to bring your torso forward. And what that's going to do is bring more weight on the front and help you handle a little bit more. So I think that's a very important one. I also roll my bars forward a lot. So bars tend to have up sweep and back sweep. I'm not a fan of back sweep. And part of it is I don't like how it feels, but I also think that back sweep down, see where my elbows are? If I roll the bars forward, you can see my elbows are up. And so I'm a fan of getting the elbows up and thinking about the elbows in line with the fork. So yeah, stem, bar height, all that. And how it affects you jumping in particular, one of the worst things that can happen when you're jumping is your elbows being down and tight. So you get those T-Rex arms. You need to have leverage. When you're on the bike, you need to have leverage. So one of the first things that we do at the ride series is we talk about body positioning. And again, I know I've said this, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. Current bikes, especially full suspension bikes, were designed to work with the center of mass over the center of the bike. So if your hips start to creep back, the suspension, the kinematics aren't going to work properly. That's a problem. So if you stay centered, you're in a much better position to maneuver all around the bike but also to have the most leverage, meaning you can get your elbows up. So if you start thinking about this next time you ride, try to get your forearms, if I'm looking at you from the side, in line with the forks. And they're not going to be completely perfect all the time, but as close as you can. So that hopefully covers a little bit of that. But we're going to go deep into that. It's so great that you brought that up, John, because that is one of the topics that I'm so excited to get Rob on here to talk about, because he's a master at that. He goes really deep. So coincidentally discovered your page for major injury. Ooh. Ever sustained a major injury riding? How dare you ask this? Yeah, I have. I've had quite a few. The most recent one was a grade 5 shoulder dislocation. Man, it's an interesting thing. So you talk about, is it a mind game going back or a natural reentry? Another thing I want to talk to Rob about, I want to bring Rob on. We literally just talked about this. Rob had a devastating crash. So last year, we were 3 races into the Big Mountain Enduro Series, and Rob was on a training ride on a trail that he rides a lot. And he came ripping through this high-speed section, and there was kind of a rock double. And he just, front tire got a little low. And it's interesting because he raced the weekend prior on the 5.5, which is a 27.5-inch wheel bike. He was riding the Switchblade, which was a 29er. So did that come into play? I don't know. It could. We're talking millimeters maybe here. And he nosed into this rock double and just lawn darted right over the bars. And it was bad. Broken collarbone, broken vertebrae, I think 8-3 in the neck, major concussion, just a lot of things. So for him, it was a long back. I mean, you break 3 vertebrae in your neck. That's one that takes some time. And they didn't know if he was going to have surgery. There was a lot of things that he had to deal with. So for him, coming back from that was difficult. Like mentally, it was really difficult for him because he had to slowly get back into the game and he had to get himself where he was comfortable. And one thing that he dealt with was creeping back on the bike. And you can't do that. That's bad. He was riding tentative. So it's a pretty fascinating story. And I'm really pushing him to get set up on his end so we can talk about this. For me, it was foolish. It was the end of the day. I did a ride, an invite-only ride, and I had not eaten much, carbohydrate in specific. And I was just ripping around like a kid having fun, and I didn't grab the scratch cheese I had in my pocket. And I came ripping through this jump line, and it was rad. Everybody loved it. So a few of us turned around to go back. People got their cameras out, and I came through it the next time, and I woke up landing on my head and didn't know what happened, and my shoulder was destroyed. So I blacked out from low blood sugar, which was just foolish on my part. But I had to have a complete AC reconstruction, and that was a long time to come back. A long time coming back from that, but mentally it wasn't that tough because I chalked it up to, yeah, it was foolish that I didn't eat, but it wasn't like I did something that caused me to crash. So hopefully, Damon, that gives you a little bit of insight. You know, this is something that we could spend a long time on. It's very difficult to come back from a crash. It's very difficult to come back from a bad ride sometimes. Like I go out and I have rides that they're rough. For me, I really enjoy riding right now. I have a lot of fun riding. Where I'm at, it's hard not to have fun, but there's times where things just aren't right. And I have to decide, can I push through this or should I just stop? Chalk it up to everybody has bad days. So I think that spectrum is very broad. And that's one where it's good to get some insight from people, because if you get a few different people talking about it, something they say might resonate with you. Yeah, it's tough, but yeah, great question. Hey, Mike, seen you this morning at the square and yelled at you. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Hopefully it was a good yell. Grateful Dead, yay or nay? You know, I think so. I think so. I'm not a huge Dead fan. I never really got into him, but Jerry Garcia he's a cool dude. So what's your take on frame size, in particular being between sizes? Ooh, Eric, I like this one. It's a great question. my take is you have to think of a few different things. So let me give you my example on that. When I had my Da Vinci's, I had a Troy and I had a Django. Troy is a 140, 160 bike, big bruiser. Django, 120, 140. And I was right there on the cusp. So I went large in the Troy, I went medium in the Django. And here's my thought process. This is what I was thinking. The duty cycle of the Django was going to be more fun, playful, cross country, maybe slower speeds, and I wanted more maneuverability. So my thought was, I'm going to run that with a little bit longer stem. So I put a 55 mil stem on it, and it felt pretty good. It really fit the bill for that. With the Troy, it was bigger bike. I'm going to be going faster. I want more high speed stability. But this is where it gets pretty interesting. I looked at the numbers and thought, okay, we're good. I got that bike. It was huge, massive bike, really long. And what I did was I put a 35 mil stem on it, which made the reach feel good, but the problem was I couldn't turn it. My weight wasn't far enough forward. So the last adjustment I made was going from the low position to the high position. So shorten it up a fraction, steepen it a tiny bit, but that was just enough to get my weight further forward. So it comes back to the question that was asked earlier about setup with bars and stuff like that. So it seems the majority of people, when they have a bike that's adjustable, they just go straight to that default low position because it's slack and enduro, bro. For me, it wouldn't work. I had to go in that higher position, and that really made the bike feel well. So I think when you're in between sizes, if you have an opportunity to get on the bike and maybe adjust the stem length and see how that feels, I think that's going to be an important thing. And then take into account where you're riding and what you're doing. If I had to choose one or the other, I would rather try to make a bigger bike smaller than a smaller bike bigger. So again, one of those topics that we could talk about a long time. Okay, John, suggestions on how to gain confidence and trusting the bike suspension and its traction, progressive steps or drills to consider. This is another one that I think it starts with a solid understanding of how suspension works. And I don't think that's something a lot of people have. And I have no problem saying I didn't have it, and I'm still learning it. I'm not a suspension expert. My brother is a suspension expert. My brother, one of his first jobs was working for a company called Works Performance, and he did suspension. So he understands how it works. And there's certain things that are empiricals. They just are. And you can try to argue with them or give your opinion, but it's not really open for opinion. It has to work. And there's a lot of nuance to it. Now, you have to figure it out. Who are you? What type of rider are you? Where are you riding? There's a lot of factors. I think the best thing is start from square one and set it up to what the manufacturer's specs are. And then from there, start riding and get a feel for what's happening. And that's one of those things. You really have to do your due diligence. You take a long time. Like, I hate suspension testing. I've always hated it. But to have to go out with a notebook and make little notes, run after run after run, sometimes that's what it takes. So the question is, do you want to take that time? Now, this is also another one that it takes somebody with a lot of suspension knowledge, I think, to try to break it down because they're confident and they can simplify it. And I can't do that. But what I'll talk about is one. So rebound. Rebound is something that we talk about at the Ride series because a lot of people talk about rebound and its setting. Now, rebound damping is something that Rob and I run very little of, meaning the bike's set up very fast. It's because of our riding style, how fast we ride, but then also our background riding motocross and supercross. I like the bike to be very active. I like very little rebound damping. That's how I ride. That lends to my riding style. Now, fast is usually 1-2 clicks in from all the way fast. Now, a couple bikes I've gone 4 in, but usually no more than that. So part of it is, okay, that's really fast. Well, yeah, will that work for you? Will it not work for you? I don't know. But if you're not over the center of the bike, we can't answer that question. So a lot of people with jumps and trusting their suspension in that regard, they creep their hips back. Well, if you're overloading and you're getting bucked, That's not necessarily because of your rebound setting. You don't know if the rebound setting did it or not because you were in the wrong position. So you got to think about that. Other things you got to think about are, sag. Where's your sag? I borrowed a buddy's Evo today to film with, and he asked me how much air pressure I put in it. I didn't touch it. I just wrote it because we were in turn. It wasn't that big of a deal, but threw him on. We checked it. It was a little over 35%. I told him, dude, I just think that's way too much for this bike. I think you should be around 25. So I told him, put some air in it, go to 30, see how it feels, then go to 25. So part of it would be make some small adjustments with suspension. In my opinion, in my experience, make small adjustments and see what the outputs end up being. And, don't do what I'm doing. You can take why I'm doing what I'm doing, the rationale behind it, and see if that works for you. But again, I'm going to get Rob on and we are going to break down suspension. And I'm basically going to be just like you. I'm going to listen and let him talk. So really good one. Really good one. Another one here. Oh, Martin, do you like riding electric mountain bikes as much as regular mountain bikes? Yes. Yes. Very easy question to answer. Now, I don't want to offend anybody here. I don't want anybody to get upset. If you ask me right now, which one bike would you keep? It would be an e-bike. So based on what is in my garage right now, it's a tough one because I have a Levo SL and a Levo. I don't know which one I would pick. If you're not familiar with the Levo SL, it's more regular bike than it is e-bike, but the Levo, I just love the Levo. And it's so funny because I go ride around here, and again, understand the basis for my answer. I am in not only what people are calling the mecca of mountain bikes, I'd call it a mecca of e-bike riding. I can literally, one of my favorite rides is get on my Levo, full battery, ride from my house all the way through Slaughter Pen, up into this system called Little Sugar, and just rip this trail called Tunnel Vision, and then come back home. And last time I did it was 41 miles, and I did it on one battery, and I averaged like 13.7, just ripping. It was so fun. And I literally ride everywhere on that Levo. It's 50 pounds that I do on my regular bike. Now, again, you have to take the context here. I grew up racing motocross. I'm okay having 50 pounds underneath me. And quite honestly, I think if you're that person riding an e-bike, the quicker you can make that weight your friend and use it to your advantage, the more fun you're going to have. Don't fight that weight, embrace that weight. And I come back to nothing changes for me. I can ride the exact same things I do on an analog bike. I just get to ride them 3 times, maybe more. So there's a lot of session spots out here. And it's funny because I'll rip to one, make a run, zip back up, make another run and zip back up. I'm usually 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 what other people are doing. So no downside to that. So that's kind of a mission moving forward. You're going to see me creating a lot more e-bike content, and a lot of it's going to be education. I don't want any part of where they're legal or not, or should they or shouldn't they. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to get into that stuff, but I'm going to get into, I'm a pretty good rider, and I'll ride the heck out of my e-bike, and I love it and I have fun. So yeah, we'll stop there. Thoughts on air pressure for a tubeless setup on a Colorado Rock Garden trails, 220 plus pounds rider. I'd say Cushcore. 220 plus. I mean, let me tell you my pressure story. So before I started running Cushcore, I ride hard. I'm 190-ish all in, geared up. I would run usually like 27, 28 up front and 29, 30-ish in the rear. I got Cushcore in. So this is Industry 9 Enduro 305. So 30.5 mil width on the rim, and then a 2.5 Maxxis Minion EHF. I was running the Cushcore XC, so the lighter Cushcore. I ran 20, sometimes 21 PSI front and 25 in the back. The entire BME, all through Colorado, New Mexico, Big Sky, and I had 0 issues. I got a flat once because I just smashed something and broke a couple spokes, broke a derailleur. It was gnarly. So I think looking at that, you're going to be, you know, you could try like 22, 23, and maybe 26, 27. It's tough to say, but the thing that people miss out on is I don't care about the flat protection. When I'm using CushCore, it's a volume reducer, just like your suspension. So you think, holy crap, 20, 25, that's super low. It is, but imagine the handling I'm getting, the traction. And when I load it up, it ramps up, just like when you put volume reducers in your suspension. So it was unbelievable. The traction that I had, the ride quality, it's like extra suspension. So I think the tire pressure thing across the board, you want to run as low as you can and not have issues. That's what I come back to. So if I'm riding, like today, I'm going to go out and I'm going to meet my buddy Jason. We're going to get some photos. I'm going to run higher tire pressure because all I'm going to be doing is jumping. And I'm going to be whipping as hard as I can and landing kind of sideways and side loading. So I want to make sure that the tire doesn't roll off. If I'm looking for traction, I'm going to drop it down a little bit more. And I'm going to run a pressure that will give me the most traction. But at the same time, I have to be careful. If I'm going to jump or side load pretty hard, I got to be careful about that. Okay, I just picked up a 2021 Epic Eva. While jumping, I'm finding myself getting bucked. You know, Caleb, saying you just picked it up, you need some time on it. I've ridden 4 or 5 times, and I hit Masterpiece. So I know you've seen Masterpiece. I hit that on the bike. I'm not going to say I was getting bucked, but I think you could think of it this way. I was coming off a bigger bike. So a bike with a little bit more travel, the window of energy was a little wider. So what's happening now is I'm coming in on this 120 bike. It's a little bit smaller, and that window is shorter. So what's happening is it's compressing and opening up a little bit quicker in relation to the other bike, and I'm not quite as prepared for it. So I think what's going to happen, Caleb, is you're going to get a little bit more used to that, and you're going to kind of adapt your body input speed, I think, to make up for it. So that is my best advice. I would play around a little bit with air pressure and what sag you're running and see if that makes a difference. So I've only ridden it a few times. I don't have much time on it. Mine's coming. I'm getting one. It should be hopefully in a week or two, and I'm going to ride the heck out of it, and we'll give some feedback. So, all right. What do we got here? For mentally picking apart the speed needed when faced with hitting a new feature. Oh, I wish. Man, I would say follow somebody in if you can. It's so hard. In that situation, I really try to look at it and analyze it and be very realistic with who I am. And there are times where I just go, that one's a little out of my wheelhouse. It just doesn't make sense. To me, if I'm looking at something and it makes 80% sense, usually I'll go for it. I like 80%, but I don't know. I try to look at it from the side. I try to think about the physics. I try to put myself in the best position I can for success. So that's a good one. Definitely a good one. All right. Yeah, e-bikes are underrepresented. I think they are, and I think it's a situation where people don't know what they don't know. They're maybe not in the right situation, and I think trying to highlight that and give people an understanding of how these bikes can be used and how much fun you can have on them, I think that's good. I think it's a positive. It's new. I think there needs to be more education. There are potential questions, I guess you can say. Some people talk about two-way trails and head-on collisions. I don't see it any more than what we deal with currently, and I think those numbers are pretty low. But either way, these bikes rip, and I can see them potentially getting away from some people. But I think that's going to be a fraction of the people. And all I come back to is when I talk to people, if you haven't been on one, reserve an opinion. Please get on one and ride it. I would argue you're hard pressed to get somebody on an e-bike and have them not like it. I would be shocked. I've gotten a few people on and they love them. they love them. They think they're awesome. So, yeah, it's cool. Drew McDowell, is there any reason that the techniques between you and Kyle Warner differ? If you would think that we're such good friends, the technique on drops and stuff would be similar. You know, Drew, man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I don't, just being friends doesn't mean your technique is the same. Technique, how you teach it, there's going to be a lot of variance. There's going to be a lot of rationale behind different things. And I think that's where it comes back to try both and see what works for you. You know, that's the beauty of what we're doing and how we're doing it. Everybody has their own opinion on things, and they can do it how they see fit. You know, Kyle's a really nice dude. Kyle is a genuinely nice dude. Kyle wants to help everybody. And I want to help also, but I'm way more type A than Kyle is. And I get way more passionate. He's better at controlling it. And I think Kyle's mentality going in is he wants to help as many people and he wants to draw as many people in. And that's why he is not as staunch on some things as I am. And I mean, I think he would tell you that. He can do things on a bike that I can't do. He's a far superior rider than me. And I do what I do on a bike, and I do it for a reason. And the only way that I can help other people is by conveying what I do and what I do. It may not work for you. Like the drop technique, it may not work for you. It may not work exactly how I do it or exactly how I say I do it. But it's a scenario where I think everybody you have to take an analytical look at it and try different things to see what works. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this turning video because it was real. It happened. We were in that position. I asked Brittany to do something a little bit different, and it actually worked out better for her. Now, I'll tell you, it was different than what Kyle said to do. You know, it's different things. Kyle and I are going to get together really soon, hopefully, and we're going to try to do some how-tos, and that hopefully will be part of it. We'll break it down different ways. You'll get his take on things and why, and I'll give you my take on things and why. I think that's the beauty of this. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's a good answer. Oh, James, how dare you ask? And tips for the mental side of struggles, switching to clips. James, you're going to pull me into a bad discussion here, man. We actually had this one today. Brittany was on flats, and I didn't say that. I borrowed this bike, this Epic Evo, from my buddy Andrew. He was on flats. I rode flats today. I filmed a how-to on flat pedals. So hopefully everybody appreciates that. Literally tips for the mental side of struggles of switching to clips. Embrace it and practice. You talking about practice? You know, everybody talks about practicing turns, practicing this, practicing that. Not many people want to go practice getting out of your clips. And it's very different. And I'll tell you, I got on that bike this morning and it was horrible. All I was thinking about was where my feet need to be and kind of moving them around to figure out where that is. So I wasn't able to focus on where I was going and what I was doing because I was worried about where my feet are. And for me, that's one of the main reasons why I don't ride flat pedals is if you're riding flat pedals, you constantly have to have your body in a position to get your feet where they should be. The other piece that I realized was I came ripping through a turn and I was washing out a little bit and it was harder to get my foot off. So literally, if you have flat pedals and good shoes, because I had Giros and these stamp pedals, put all your weight on the pedal and try to twist your foot off. It won't come off. When I'm clipped in, I can have all my weight on one foot and just twist my foot out. So again, it comes back to you have to take the time to get used to bringing your foot out. And it only stands to reason. If you spend a week and an hour a day, just riding around, taking your feet out, you would be a lot more comfortable at the end of the week taking your feet out. So again, another one that we're going to get to Rob Drew here to talk about, because he's really good about talking the differences between riding clipped in and riding flat, because they're very, very different. All right. Do you ever have an off day on the trails? If so, yeah, Jacob, I talked about this earlier, dude. I have it a decent amount, and everybody has it. I think part of it is understanding you're going to have down days. You cannot constantly get better. There's going to be times where rides just don't work and a dumb fall is going to happen. And, it's one of those things where you gotta let it go. A lot of times, if I'm not riding well, I'll stop. I'll literally stop on the trail, take a few breaths, out loud tell myself, look ahead, focus on your technique, and usually it gets better. But if it's not there, sometimes I'll just turn around and go home. Maybe it's just not meant to be, but I let it go. That's it. It's over. I go out, and the next day is a new day, and I come in with new focus and try to have the best ride I can. So knowing it's going to happen, and then I think dealing with it and brushing it off. I mean, bad day on the bike, still a pretty damn good day. So very good one. All right, BMX racing background equals good technique on MTB. I think the chances are very good. If you ask me what was the biggest catalyst for my ability to ride a mountain bike the way I do now, it was years and years of riding BMX. Riding BMX at a fairly high level, I think, is an incredible advantage on the bike. It gives you a really solid base. And part of that is you really understand or get a feel of how to maximize something that's very small. Meaning, when I was 7 to I raced 19, 20, 21. Now I'm a 20-year-old dude, big dude, 200 plus pounds, riding a 20-inch BMX bike, hitting big jumps. When you're comfortable hitting 20, 25-foot doubles on a BMX bike, your ability to do things on a massive trail mountain bike with 29-inch tires, it's incredible. It's like you're in the warm-up box, swinging around that weighted bat, and then you drop that heavy donut off and you go swing. It's kind of along those lines. I think BMX it's amazing. It's amazing to teach spatial awareness, bike control, all those things. And when you have that background and you can bring that background in to riding a mountain bike, it's big. And what's funny is a decent amount of high-level moto riders, Jeremy McGrath is a prime example. A lot of them started racing BMX, then went into motocross. Well, everybody rides mountain bikes who races motocross. And what's funny is I've been around guys who are ripping moto riders and they can't ride a mountain bike. And the problem is there's nothing beneath them. So if you're an amazing motocross rider, but you never rode BMX, you're at a handicap. You're at a disadvantage to somebody who's your peer riding moto that rode BMX. So my anecdotal evidence tells me, yes, BMX is a huge, huge advantage. So, all right, let's see here. Man, you guys are throwing them down. Thanks for the answers. 2020 high bike. I've heard the high bike is rad. Yeah, I got to get on one of those. New bike day tomorrow for John. Tire selection for DFW, Bentonville, Spider Mountain. DHF, love it. If it's a 2.3, yeah, Kona Process, legit. Is that overkill? Dude, I do not think that's overkill. I think that setup is rad. I love 2.5 up front, 2.3 rear. I think that's money. I love the DHF, one of my favorite tires. So, nah, man, I don't think you're overkill. I think, in DFW and Bentonville and Spider Mountain, you might be running some different tire pressures. So play around with that. But nah, man, you're good. You're good. Shedding some light. The brothers talk on the clip. Yeah, James, it's funny. Rob's a super passionate dude, but I think what he says makes sense. And if I could just get across to people, if you want to ride flats because you're scared of getting out of clips, cool. I get that. But to say that flats are better than clips just because you're scared, I don't think that's right. And I had this question earlier about, somebody said, people are lifting up with clips and that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. My answer was why? Like, that's why I ride clips. Riding clipped in is way different than riding in flats. And if you don't want to ride in flats, then why try to be good on flats? Be good on clips if you're going to ride clipped in. They're two different things. But that's something you're never going to have a good outcome with that one. Old dilemma, wearing a full face helmet on a trail or bike park. Marco, I don't think there's anything wrong with wearing a full face helmet. I will probably start wearing a full face helmet a lot more, especially now. More and more helmets are getting better. Cali has the Invader, which is super light and very vented. I think it's a solid idea to always have a full face and always have knee and elbow pads. I just think it's smart. Yeah, it's hot, but man, it's definitely worth it. Okay, what else do we have? Have I experienced a drop in recovery with age? Yes, I have. Again, something else that literally is its own video. I have had a substantial drop in recovery in my 40s. I am 42, well, I guess and a half. I turned 42 in January. I generally take very good care of myself, but what I can tell you now is ever since the beginning of the year when everything went south with COVID, my nutrition has been horrible. So how do you minimize its impact? I can tell you right now, nutrition. When I eat a lot of good meat, and we get all our meat and pork and chicken all from a local farm. When I base everything around good meat, a lot of good fats, and as many vegetables as I could possibly eat, it's amazing how the recovery absolutely skyrockets. There's some supplements I take. One of them is called Agilese from Young Living. My wife is a distributor for Young Living. She has a pretty large team, and there's a few products that company has that are absolute game changers, and Agilese is one of them. But I would tell you, my 3 keys are nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. It's just one, but I said it 3 times. The nutrition piece is huge. Cut out as much processed food as you can. And it's bad. Bad is bad. If you get it from the outside of the grocery store, it's probably a good thing. Now, I still mix in some stuff. Tomorrow we're going to crush some pizza because Fridays are pizza days. I'm human. I want to maintain my sanity, but get the nutrition right, get the hydration right. Hydration is another one that is majorly impactful. So when you're riding, make sure your nutrition is on point and your hydration is on point, because that's going to set you up to not degrade as much during that ride and set you up for the next ride. The other thing is sleep. Get a lot of sleep. I try to sleep at least 8 hours every day. There's times where 7:45, I'm asleep. And the more sleep you get, especially the older you get, or the more your volume goes up, the better it's going to be. So currently, James, $4.99. John, thanks, guys. I love this. I keep forgetting about this whole super chat thing. It's pretty legit. All right. Tom's currently riding clipped on trails. Switch to flats for jumps. The idea to practice jumps with clipped. Tom, it's one of those things. I get asked this a lot for clinics. People say, hey, should I switch to flats coming to the clinic? My first instinct is no. If you ride clipped in, don't change. Like, it's different. It's very different, but I want people to be comfortable. I think it's cool to do it with both. What's good, I think, with flats, and I'm still trying to vet this a little bit more, one of the biggest issues with jumping is loading in to the face of the jump. And I have seen a lot of people pull early and they pull the bike up. When you're on flats, you can't do that. So one simple thing is, if, Tom, you're jumping and your feet are separating from the bike, that's telling you you're not driving through the takeoff. You should be pushing all the way through the takeoff. And when that happens, the bike's going to push back against you and it's going to keep it attached to your feet. So yeah, I think it's good to play around with it. Find a spot you're comfortable and play around with the clips, but you have to be very real with, are you loading as much as you need to, then pulling with your feet? And it's the common tale of people saying, oh, dude, you're cheating by lifting the bike up. Well, it's not cheating to lift the bike up as long as you're doing it at the right time. Weight to lift the bike up until you need to. So hopefully that answers pretty good. 5'9", large transition patrol, a good fit. I've not been on a transition patrol, Brian, but I can tell you I'm a little over 5'9". I was on a spur and definitely a large. So what I'll do, I'm going to try and get on a patrol soon and see, so I can give you a little bit better feel for that. So Jeff, buying a first full suspension, narrowed it down to 3 in San Antonio, the Ritmo AF Orbea Occam H20 and Fazzari Delano Peak. Dude, you asking for my recommendation. I'm gonna go with the Fazzari all the way, but I've never ridden a Ritmo AF and I've never ridden an Orbea Occam. By all accounts, both very good bikes. I reached out to Orbea about riding some bikes, kind of got brushed off. So I tried. I definitely tried. It's tough to say, man. The Fazzari, dude, I love the Delano Peak. And especially in San Antonio, it's a bike that you can pedal all day, but you take it to the mountains and rip it. And they're a rad company. I have no problem saying that. Fazzari is one of the coolest companies that I ever worked with. And they literally reached out and said, hey, man, we got a new bike coming out in a couple months. We'd love for you to ride it and give us your opinion. That's genuinely how it happened. And I rode a LaSalle Peak in Sedona and just didn't mesh very well with it. And Tyler, their main marketing guy, was like, yeah, dude, it happens. And he's a rad dude. They're a very realistic company. They're very customer focused. And I continue to be impressed with the bike that I'm on because it's a $34.99 retail bike. Somebody said something about going through a couple of SLX deraillers. I've been murdering this bike with the SLX 12 speed and this DBO suspension. No issues. So I don't know. If you ever pass by Cleveland, yeah, that'd be cool, Martin. If I get out there, I'll ride that thing. That'd be pretty fun. Craig's asking about dialing in your bar width, shoulder width, wingspan. Man, there's a lot of theories around that. There's a lot of input around that. I'm not super wide and I don't have a massive wingspan. I like 760 to 780, generally speaking. And I think 740 to 780 is a pretty good realm for the majority of people. And that's been my experience. A lot of guys run an 800s plus now. And it just comes back to when your arms are way out here, that's a bad thing. You're going to put a lot of stress on your shoulders, on your wrists, things like that. I think it's worth trying it, trying a few different sizes and see what resonates. Also bar choice. Okay. Where are we at here? Mainly ST trail riding with some jumps, trying to progress. Yeah, Jeff, dude, I really think you dig that Delano, man. But again, try to ride the other two. I'd love to ride a Ritmo AF. Sounds like a rad bike. I haven't had the chance. Hey, Rich, Kyle teaches a hips butt behind the seat drop technique that is different than yours. Is this more a matter of preference than a right and wrong situation? Yeah, totally, dude. It's totally preference, Jose. It's one of those things where I think there's a lot of similarities to what Kyle and I do as riders. I think a lot of it comes back to semantics, and people, especially on YouTube, want to take things incredibly literally. That's what I've realized. So I'm trying to find a way to work with that and be very careful of the words I choose. The problem is I just get fired up and I'm really passionate about it. And I expect people will listen to what I mean sometimes and not what I say. So I'm getting better at that. And again, I think it's nuance. I think it's semantics. It's easy for me to say in this position. I'm pretty good at riding a bike. Kyle's really good at riding a bike. I think there's people out there that are doing some how-tos that may not be as good as we are on the bike, or they don't have the experience. That's the other thing I come back to is what I tell you in my videos. I've been riding bikes for 37 years. I've been in a lot of different situations on the bike. Everything I tell you is from my experience. It's not like I just read something and I'm regurgitating that information. I've experienced it. I have well over those 10,000 hours. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to convey why I do what I do and what benefits are. There's going to be so many different ways I'll try to come at it. Always resonate. They won't always be clear to every person. And I get it. And some people do things differently. And what I come back to is there's some people that are way better riders. Kyle, and he does things differently. Maybe what he says is going to work better for you for one reason or another. Maybe what I say is going to work better for somebody for one reason or another. All we can do is try. And my thing is, give it an opportunity. That's all. Give it an opportunity. Like what I'm saying, try it and see what happens. And don't be so dogmatic that you come off a drop that's, 8 feet tall and push the bike straight down. Common sense has to come into play. But like today, we filmed this video. I rode through some berms. I tried with level pedals and I could not do it. I tried multiple times and I couldn't do it. When I moved my feet to inside up, everything just worked. And that's one of those situations. So yeah, when and when not to adjust the stiffness of a full suspension. Ruben, I never touch it. I leave mine open all the time. And that's one thing I think some people have a hard time understanding. If I'm on a fair road climb or something, maybe I'll do that. But generally, I'm not on the mountain bike. And part of having the rebound set so fast is using it in technical climbing situations. The other thing is, if I always keep it open, I'll never start a race stage or a gnarly run with it closed. So I would, again, with suspension, play around with it. And you got to understand too, with suspension, you'll get it set up well for a certain area that you ride. But if you go ride another area that's very different, that could warrant some changes in suspension. I mean, you can add in a little bit of compression. You can change a few things, but all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it for that particular scenario. So for me, I try to set mine up very, very kind of neutral, meaning I'll in a ride go hit some massive jumps or be cruising on some single track cross country style. So I want it kind of open and able to handle pretty much everything I throw at it. So that's my setup. TGM off-road. I ride my e-bike to cross train for dirt bike enduro racing. Yeah, dude, that makes sense. Totally, dude. He wants flats to be more similar to moto. Of course, dude. That makes perfect sense. And it's fun too. One of the best things, this will resonate with you, dude, seat bouncing things on an e-bike are awesome. So if you don't know what that means, basically on a dirt bike, you roll in and you load into the seat to load the suspension. And as you're rolling into the throttle, and that helps get you more lift. On an e-bike, you can actually do that. So you load into the seat, pedaling, and you get that seat bounce. So yeah, it's pretty cool. What else do we got? Been leaning on the, what do we got here? Been leaning towards the Delano, the Ripmo. Yeah, dude, Jeff, it looks awesome. It's a great bike. But again, ride them. I have not ridden a Ripmo and I have not ridden an Occam, but heard a lot of people say great things about both of those bikes. So I would definitely try to ride them. DVO is legit. Can't go wrong with that. Bikes with Bishop, what's my favorite trail? Ooh, that's a tough one. Really tough one to answer. Right now, I'm really liking Hammer Down here. So in Northwest Arkansas, there's a lot of stuff. Hammer Down isn't too far from my house, and it's just fun because it's got literally a little bit of everything. And I can ride through it and just make tiny input changes and get some different outcomes. So I kind of geek out about that because I like to make those little changes and see what happens. And it's really cool when you get to a level where you can ride at a decent speed and do things slightly different, but then very quickly pick up on what the difference is and in the moment get excited about it. So I love that. I love finding a place where I can ride a section of trail a bunch of different ways and really think about what the feedback is and how it's changing. So yeah, that spot's really cool. There's a lot of stuff here that I still haven't hit. They built some new stuff that's rad. So all right, Enduro Review, James Miller, thank you for the super chat, fellas. I appreciate it. I dig this. It's we're gonna have to cut it off here in a few more minutes. My in-laws are ready to chat, and I can go hook up with my man Bentonville MTB to get some pictures. But who's your favorite rider to watch, past or present? Who's your favorite EWS rider this year? And again, one of those questions. I have a lot of favorites. Iago Gary is just dude's rad. I really like watching him. I like people that have effortless style, for one. So there's a few people like that. Cody Kelly is a prime example. Brenner the Brenner is another one. Joey Foresta, Kyle Warner. I like people that have amazing style on the bike, people that don't look like they're trying hard. One of my favorite riders of all time, past, present, probably going to be forever, is Richie Rude. And the reason is Richie looks like a linebacker, and he rides with so much power, but so much grace. And it's really rare that somebody can do that, because there aren't as many people that are as big and as strong as him. And to have the ability to do what he does with that weight and that power is just amazing. So part of why Richie resonates with me is he's super athletic. He's in the gym. He really thinks about that part of his game. And I've been able to ride with him a few times, and it's frightening. It's frightening what that dude can do through turns. Like, just amazing. And yeah, he's super impressive. But I'm going to think about that one, James, and I'm going to come back. We might have to have, that might be the topic of one of these live sessions, is who is your favorite rider and why? Because there's so many of them out there. Okay, let me see if we got, when's the last time you've been injured? We talked about that. John Tate, 61 people in here, hit the thumbs up. That's so funny. I don't even think about is Will Ludward. What's up, dude? Okay, I think we hit most of. Oh, Nick, no, dude, off bike training, lifting, cross training. Yes, Nick. Hopefully you're still on here, dude. Yeah, definitely. And we have some videos in the works, man. We're actually going to do them at a gym, so hopefully I can get those done here very soon, because I think that's a very important piece. So much so that if you have a limited amount of time to ride, like let's say you had 5 hours a week to ride, or even 4, I would dedicate an hour to being in the gym and or just training, strength training, mobility, because that'll make your other 3 hours of riding way better. So trust me, we're going to talk about that. It'll be a lot of good things. All right, 58 minutes. I'm going to keep it under an hour because I don't want my wife to get upset with me, but we got up to, I think, 61 or something. It's awesome. I dig it. Very grateful that everybody tuned in, and I love these questions. It's really cool to get these questions and really talk about all these different things. Like the question about Kyle and his technique. I mean, there's so many people who have so many different techniques, and all I come back to is I do what I do, and I do it for a certain reason, and I'm okay rationalizing those reasons. That's what it comes back to. I'm not saying other people's ways are wrong. They do things differently, and some people have a great way of conveying them. And if they work and they get people to have more fun, be safer, and be more confident, that's all it's about, plain and simple. So, all right, I think that's it. I'm going to roll. I'm going to go home and change. I'm going to go hit some Masterpiece and hopefully post some really cool fisheye photos on the gram. So follow along. Gram at the truth. Thanks, guys. Peace out, dumpers. Dumpers out.